real deals in real estate. Welcome to the Real Deal Podcast with Todd Hearn.
Hello, everybody. This is Todd Hearn. Welcome back to the Real Deal Podcast. Today we've got a great episode. I've got Connor Adams here with me. He's our producer and stuff for the show, and it's going to be really good. We're going to get back and forth and understanding what he does behind the show, and he's, I think, going to ask me maybe a few questions on some things that deal with real estate and things like that. So we're going to have a little back and forth today here and kind of give you a behind the scenes of what goes on to make a podcast work. So that's I'm kind of excited about it because I want to know too. I don't do that stuff. He does, So without any further ado, Connor, thanks for being on today.
Thanks for having me. It was, I know you had a migraine this week, so it was a bit of a challenge trying to figure out when we're going to get you in, and we couldn't find a guest last minute, and so I get to be here. So I
got a great guest.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
Out of default, but you know what? That's the beauty of this. And I had a migraine, and them they're it's just you can't even hardly function. I don't even know how else to put it. You just got to lay down, and there ain't much you can do. And there's no there's no solving it. That's what sucks about it. It's not like you can just go. You can go pop a Tylenol or ibuprofen all you want. It ain't gonna help.
Nope. So
anyway, enough about that. So what we're gonna get into today, what if you had to say what got you into this business? What and well, actually, to start off, what do you do? What do you do? What is your title? I mean, I know what your title is, but what is your title? What all do you do to make podcast happen?
Yeah, so I think my official title is show producer. So basically, for all of our clients here at Hitlab Studios, I make sure that the studio is set up and ready to go for whatever their needs are for their episodes, and make sure that the clients are happy, make sure they're good with everything that's going on. I'll produce the episode, make sure everything looks good, sounds good, get it distributed, and then pull clips for social medias and make sure we're able to promote the show that way. So kind of just making sure the episode from start to finish looks and sounds good.
Well, I'm going to give you a huge praise here because I've had multiple people that watch the podcast have told me how professional the clips and the different postings and stuff like that and when the timing and all that, what goes into that? What goes into how do you know when is the best time to post something on Instagram or on Facebook or on what whatever? What goes into understanding how to do that? Because like I said, you do a fantastic job, and I've had multiple people tell me how professional and like it's amazing job that you do. How do you do that? How do you come up with all of that?
Well, first off, thank you. I appreciate it. So basically, when I'm editing the episode, after everything gets filmed, and if have the opportunity to be in the episode, I'll usually make notes when it's being recorded. But as I'm going throughout the episode and editing it, I'll kind of find just moments that are really good from the footage to pull. And then as far as the posting time, it really just boils down to analytics. Everybody is completely different. For some clients, the best times to post are 11 in the morning and 5 o'clock at night, and other people the best time to post is at 3. So it kind of just boils down to looking at people's analytics on their Instagram accounts and TikTok and all the different platforms and see when they're getting the most traction, when their followers are the most active, which sounds really a lot more complicated than it is, but it's just finding those times and then posting during them and making sure it's a lot of really just simple things coming together, making sure there's no typos, everything's spelled properly, the timing is good, because the content itself is great. That's the easy part of it. Everything, especially with real estate, everybody likes to hear what you have to say, and So really, once you can figure out the timing and then finding out a few hashtags to make sure more people see it, the rest is kind of taken care of.
Awesome. So otherwise, why did you get into this? What in your background said, hey, I want to produce podcasts?
So it's kind of just started as a whole journey throughout my kind of freelance career. I started when I was I think it was like sophomore year of high school. Got into doing some video stuff because a buddy of mine needed help. And then throughout that, I've been very blessed that I haven't actually had to like hunt for work. I've never been the guy that like sits on Facebook, hunched over my computer for hours, quote unquote, bidding on jobs. It's all been connections and relationships and, hey, XYZ referred me to you. They said, you might be able to help me out with this. Can you do it? And I don't always know if I can do it, but I say yes and then figure out the rest from there. But I've been very blessed to just everything is connections. So I had a client about 3 years ago who referred me to the guy who built Hitlab Studios and owns this whole joint. Nick Hyder, he has a show, The Hit Streak, how to do that plug in there. But I got started working with him on his social media before the studio ever existed. And he kind of came to me with the idea of he wanted to produce his own podcast. And then with him and Jim Gray, our creative director, we kind of just realized that it could be marketable and people were wanting to use the space and go from there. And I honestly didn't know if I would enjoy it or not. It was kind of just like, this is the next step. Let's try it out. I'm big on learning new things and trying things out. And if I don't like it, I can always, stop and adjust from there, but I'll never say no to something new. I'm always intrigued by learning. So I was like, yeah, let's figure it out. Let's do it. And once we got into it, I just fell in love being able to do it. And, we've changed some things on the back end and who's doing what. And, I ended up here and now I'm even taking less quote unquote freelance jobs so I can pour more into this because it's a ton of fun. So
as far as the freelance stuff, tell me more about that.
Yeah. So it started out as video, just general work. I'd help people with short films, more on the creative side of things, and then got into the corporate space a little bit. My dad needed some stuff for his office, and he gave me an opportunity. And from there, I got a few corporate jobs, and then that kind of evolved into doing more storytelling. And I basically just said yes to everything and everybody and would figure it out, and eventually people started asking me about photography, and I make a joke about it, but I was basically tired of telling people, no, I don't want your money. And I'd never done photography before in my life, but I'd done video. And so I accepted a photography gig, and I had about 2 weeks out from it. And so in that 2 weeks, I just would do research for hours, figuring out the best shots and angles to use and how to tell basically a story in a single image. And then the general, the technical like poses and all that kind of stuff that I won't get into, but I did that and then did my first photo shoot, and it's the worst one I've done so far, but it's good, and learning new things. And I learned things on that shoot about, okay, well, that's not going to work in reality. It's a good idea, but, we need to adjust and just figuring things out as you go. And, you make the mistakes and you learn from them and you don't make them again. So
I think that's the key to a lot of things is you're going to, if you don't make mistakes, you're not learning. You don't learn if you don't make mistakes. So you have to make mistakes. And but with freelance, so I don't know, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. So I'm thinking maybe our listeners are too. So as far as when you say freelance, so does that mean, what does that mean? I mean, what goes, are you taking pictures that's going on a billboard? Are you taking pictures that goes in a magazine, or videos that are going on some social media platform, or what does that really mean? And does that make sense?
Yeah. So I kind of use freelance as just like an umbrella term. So underneath that, it's photography, it's videography, it's editing. I've done some graphic design work. And And so, the answer to that is yes. It's been, I haven't actually done billboard photography, but it could be that. It's, senior headshots, senior photos, professional headshots. It could be lifestyle photography, family photos. A lot of recently I've done a lot of 1-year-old birthday parties. So that's a kind of a fun time. And then as far as the video side, it could be producing a podcast. It could be, just creating Instagram videos for people. It could be, doing a music video, or, I'm a retainer for a company out in LA that sends me stuff, and I'll just edit their content to make it look better and produce it to the best of my ability, and, create logo intros and stuff for people on YouTube. So really it's just an overall encompassing umbrella that really just fits anything photo and video is probably something that I've at least dabbled in at this point in my career.
Gotcha. Okay, so what's your questions about real estate?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I've met a lot of real estate agents, so I'm always curious.
He's been looking forward to this all morning. So.
Oh yeah. All right, so number one, I have a whole list. That's who I am as a person. I make lists about things. So how do you organize your workday as a real estate agent? Because I work for myself as well, so I know that I have to you have to be self-motivated in any industry that you work for yourself. So I'm curious about how you kind of manage that.
Well, the hardest part is to be able to, like me personally, I work from home. We have an office, and I try to go to the office and do things and treat the office as like I left the house, got in the car, drove to wherever, and went into an office. I try to treat it the same way. Now, that's challenging because inevitably you have, I need to go take the garbage out, or I need to go do this for the dogs, or I need to do something else around the house. And that sometimes is the hardest part, is being able to put that stuff aside and say, you know what, I can't, I'm at work. Okay. So the way you prioritize it is you have to, number one, you got to keep your pipeline going. So just like you were saying with connections, it's the same thing in real estate. I think that's funny because I don't think I've done an episode yet that connections didn't come up. No matter if it was producing, if it was insurance, if it was concrete, if it was, it doesn't matter. Everything is connections with other people, and it's big in real estate. That's what drives my business, is connections, and being able to capitalize on those connections from one, I might meet somebody and that needs to buy a house. They buy a house from me. They've got a friend that needs to buy a house. They refer them to me. They buy a house. Well, then a couple of years down the road, they need to sell their house. They call me, and it's all about developing relationships and maintaining relationships. So that's the most difficult part, is maintaining relationships, because it's really easy once you've closed that deal to, you're focused on the next deal, but you've got to, look back and take care of the people that you dealt with. That way, whenever they do have something down the road, they still remember you, and that they want to use you again. And so as far as organizing my day, I try to make calls and do text and stuff like that with people that I know, and that whether that's deals that I'm working on right now. Number one, I start taking care of the deals that I'm working on right now first, and then after that, I move on to just talking to people, just sending somebody a text and saying, "Hey, how are you doing? How's the new house? How's the somebody that's closed something with us?" And doing things like that, and just maintaining that relationship. And then, it's all the paperwork and all the other stuff. I kind of put that to last, because I don't like that much. That's the last thing to worry about. If Stephanie hasn't taken care of it, she takes care of most of that stuff. So I need to have her on here sometime. But but anyway, maintaining your relationships is the key and has to be kind of the center point of everything that you do. Whether it's through social media, whether it's through a text, a phone call, or a card just saying, hey, how you doing? Happy birthday, whatever. All of that stuff matters. And that's how I kind of organize my day. Is I take care of what I've got going on right now, and then I try to take care of people that have done something with me in the past, and make sure I'm maintaining that relationship and cultivating that area.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very easy to it's almost not even intentional about not even forgetting past clients, but just like always focused on what's next. And it's almost like you don't even like process looking back. And I mean, I've done the same. I've like reached out to people in the past, just like, hey, hope you're doing well. Wanted to see if there's anything you need help with. If not, I've seen your stuff. I think everything looks great, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And, I'll get a response of like, oh, you know what? I was actually just thinking about you. I've been meaning to reach out. We have another project for you. But had I not sent a message just saying, hey, hope you're doing well. Wanted to reach out in case you needed anything, you know? And I think a lot of people are afraid of that, especially new freelancers or real estate agents, in my experience, are almost afraid to reach out because they don't want to bother people. And I've found that even being on the receiving end and on the giving end, I have never once been bothered for somebody to reach out. I've said no, like, hey, actually, I'm good. I don't need anything right now, but thanks for reaching out. Like, it just shows that you care. If nothing else, it shows that you care. And I don't think anybody's ever going to be offended by that.
Right, I agree, and that is the hardest thing to fight, is because that's the last thing I want to do, is to bother somebody. But especially with me in real estate, people tend to ask me questions more than just real estate wise. It may be, hey, do you know a guy that mows a yard, or do you know somebody that does this, or somebody that does that? And so I've developed relationships with a lot of other people that do different things. So whenever somebody does ask me something like that, I'm able to say, hey, yeah, I call this guy. He does a great job. So, and being able to do that and being able to be a reference, a source of, for them to be able to find something that they need at the time, and them not have to dig around and look on Google, and because especially in a smaller town and local stuff, you can Google all you want. You're not going to find who the best yard mower is in Watertown, and different things like that. And I've even had clients, that I've talked to in the past, and they say, hey, we did this to the house. You need to come by and look at it. That's really cool to me. I enjoy that, to be able to. It's almost like you become a member of their family, and that's the thing that you have to cultivate, and to make sure that you. And the thing is you can't be disingenuous about it. You have to be like you can't just act like you care. You have to really care, because if you just act like you care, they're going to see right through that. People aren't stupid. I'm not stupid. I can see when somebody's being disingenuous, and that's why I like to call at different times. And I'm not calling because I need anything I'm just calling, hey, how you doing? What's going on? What's going on in your life right now? How's everything going? And because I care, not because, that I'm, hey, I need you to give me 3 referrals. If they give me a referral, they give me a referral. If they don't, they don't. It's okay, but I want to be the person that down the road, when they do have somebody that they need a referral for, I'm the first person they think of, because I didn't, I'm not pushing that down their throat. I'm just there.
Yeah.
And I genuinely care about them. Yeah.
And honestly, the best time to do that is when you're driving. I at least for me, like, and I found that like I waste.
Are you texting and driving?
I don't text and drive, but I call and drive. I have the whole like voiceless system in my car now, so I'll literally like I'll just make calls when I'm driving, because one, it's 30 minutes. There's 30 minutes right there just from me getting from my home office to my office here in the studio. That's 30 minutes. I can call 3-4 past clients, current clients, making sure everybody's happy with things. Maybe I can call just family. And I feel like there's a lot of just wasted time in driving, you know? And so it's thinking about different ways that you can utilize time better as well, which kind of goes into my next question for you.
Oh.
What are the most critical skills to being a successful real estate agent?
Critical skills. I think the biggest thing is just being able to talk to people, being able to relate to people, not being kind of out of touch, and just as far as just a skill is just being able to relate and talk. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Everything else you can kind of learn, but as far as a skill, I think you got to be able to talk to people and be able to get to their level, and because here's the thing, and I'm sure it's the same thing doing podcasts. I mean, we've done this. Whenever I first started this, I didn't know jack squat about podcasts, right? So it's the same thing in real estate. I mean, most people, I think on the average, will go through, buying a real estate maybe 3 to 4 times in their life. Well, we do that 3 or 4 times a month, so we do that all the time. So we have that expertise, and we know, okay, we need to do this, we need to do this. We don't need to do this, and we know all of those things. Well, they don't, because it's not what they do every day, So you have to recognize that and be able to communicate that to your client of what is best for them and why it's best for them and what they need to do and the different things that go on in the real estate process, because it's not what they do every day. They don't understand that. They don't understand, different things that have to be done in a real estate transaction. It's my job to take care of that for them, so they don't necessarily have to understand it, but I can explain it to them so they're okay. I get you got it. Take care of that. And so I think being able to explain what the process is, how everything's going to work, and being able to communicate that to clients is one of the biggest skills, and being able to, just talk to people and communicate.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that translates to really anything that you do. It all goes back to relationships, communication. We have a saying around here all the time that there's never been a problem, at least to the best of my knowledge. I don't think we've ever had an issue where somebody communicated too much, and it's just things that you may not see as important, your clients may see as important, just like things your clients may not think is important to what you need to do your job to the best of their ability. But it also has to be on you to understand those type of things and to be able to communicate and have that relationship with your client to where they can come to you, or they feel like they can come to you with any issue they may have, any minor comment. I've gone to good friends of mine that are real estate agents and mortgage lenders, and I'm like, hey, this may be a dumb question, but I don't know until I know, blah, 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 blah. But I wouldn't do that to a stranger. I do that because I have a relationship with them and I trust them. But you have to build that trust. You can't just like go up to people and be like, hey, I'm, Todd Hearn, want to buy a house from me? It doesn't work like that.
No, not at all.
Everyone knows a real estate agent nowadays.
Everybody knows 8.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the truth. There's, and that's who people use. Is you're going to use somebody that somebody that you trust, just like you just said. Because I mean, that's a large transaction. It's the largest one that most couples or individuals are going to undertake in their whole life. Whether it's one time or 2 times or however many times over 50 years, that's you're talking several $100,000. That's a big deal, so you want somebody that has your interest in mind and not just looking for a paycheck. And because and that's the thing is you can't just be looking for a paycheck on those. Sometimes it don't make sense. You had to tell them, say, hey, look, just do what you're doing. Don't right now. You just need to hang out and wait. Because of the position that you're in, you're in a good position, and I mean, right now the market's crazy, or right now, if what you're looking for, it's not the best time to buy right now. We need to just hang out, and I think people respect that you're being honest with them, and instead of just trying, oh yeah, you need to buy that. I don't believe in that. That's not me.
Yeah, I think if you focus on, and whatever you do, I think if you focus on helping people, the money will come. But if you focus on the money, you'll always be chasing the dollar.
Yep, and it makes for a long day.
Yeah,
and a long week, a long month, a long whatever. Because I mean, in our business, there's ebbs and flows, and you just kind of go with it. Right now, we're kind of we've slowed down a little bit. It's not come to a screeching halt or anything like that. It's just not going. We went from doing 120 to back down to about 70. We're back doing the speed limit again instead of trying to go to jail. But so, all right, let's get back to you now. So, what goes into, say, the Real Deal podcast? What goes into a show? What outside of just what we're doing right now? What else goes into it?
Yeah, so obviously, as you mentioned, we have this part, right? You can't have a podcast if you don't come to the studio and record a podcast. That's surprise. It doesn't work like that. You have to actually, show up and film.
Are you sure?
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, obviously, this is the obvious part, but there's a lot that goes into the front end of that and the back end of that, right? So you have to, on the front end, okay, so somebody comes to us and they're like, hey, I want a podcast, right? You have to go over the branding. What do they want the podcast to be about? What do is that a marketable plan, right? If nobody wants to hear a podcast about, well, maybe I won't say nobody, but most people probably don't want to hear a podcast about your favorite 3 cereal brands, right? So
I think I've seen one on that.
Probably, honestly. But so you have to talk about the branding. What's it going to look like? What kind of podcast is it going to be? Is it going to be a solo? Is it going to be a duo host? Is it going to be one person who always has a different guest on every week? So there's a lot of logistical things to figure out before you ever sit down in the chair, right? Because if you don't go into it with a plan, well, you're just shooting shots in the dark. You'll eventually get success, in my opinion, but how much quicker would it be if you just sat down for 2 hours and figured out, all right, here's a step-by-step of what I want my podcast to look like, what I want it to sound like. Here's the audience I'm chasing. Here's what I want it to, appeal to. Here's the style I want to do. I want to do it this often. I want to do it with these people. Here's what I want my branding to look like. Branding is huge. Here's the marketing plan I have. That's huge, right? So we basically sit down with the client, whoever is like, hey, I want to start a podcast, and we break all that down. We call them table sessions, and we'll get a big piece of butcher paper, and we just write down everything. And then from there, our team will create a plan. We have a graphic designer on staff, and we'll create the background that you see for like the Real Deal podcast. We'll do your headshots. We'll basically brand you for the podcast. We create all your social accounts for it. Making sure you're all set up on our RSS distribution things. And then we get you in for your first episode, right? So there's probably about 2 weeks to a month of prep work that goes into everything. And then from there, we film your first episode, and always be ahead on episodes. That's probably the biggest lesson that we've learned in this is life's going to happen. What are you going to do about it? Things are going to go wrong. You're going to have to leave town unexpectedly. You're going to get sick. So always trying to stay a couple episodes ahead is preferable. And then you have the post-production. So then you take the raw footage, you edit it, you make sure it sounds good, it looks good, for certain people, for certain clients, we'll create the intro for them and an outro. So we'll plug all that into the episode, and then we comes to the distribution side of things, and that's the standard, like, weekly or bi-weekly episode release. And then that's going to go out on RSS across all podcast platforms. We work through them all. Spotify video is a new thing that we have access to, so we're doing that for people right now. And then finally comes the clip distribution. So that's where myself or one of our other team members will go in and cut clips, throw captions on them, make sure everything looks professional, and then we'll release those, on a weekly basis to kind of help promote the brand and the podcast, because they kind of help each other, right? Your podcast is going to help your brand, and your brand is going to help your podcast, and that's how you make money. Because it's really getting you in front of as many people as possible, because if nobody knows who you are or what you do, they're not going to buy from you. And nobody's going to buy from you if you don't know who you are or what you do. So it kind of all wraps those things in together. So that's pretty much a general overview of what goes into a show, if you will.
I got you. Well, that sounds good. And so as far as, so when we do that, we got, I remember going through all of that, getting all the, getting the real deal. We went through probably 4 or 5 different ones.
Yep. Before
we settled on this one. Man, I think Nick finally he figured out, if I throw orange at him, he's gonna like it. so that and I think that y'all do a great job of understanding the client and what we're looking for and what we want to do, what we want to portray. As far as on a day-to-day basis, though, outside of just doing the show. So we're here doing the show right now, but on a day-to-day basis, how do you keep yourself organized and get things taken care of as far as for different podcasts and stuff like that?
Yeah, so we do a thing as a team. It's not required or anything. It's something that's in our values, and we call it a power list. And so what that is that's basically we take our daily plan, right? And we just write it down and throw it in our Slack channel. And basically what that is it's not what you have to get done, but that's your plan for the day. So every night before we go to sleep, we'll end the day by reviewing what we did today and what our plan was, and then we'll go ahead and post our plan for tomorrow. Like I said earlier, life happens. Things change. We adjust things. Even today, I've adjusted my power list like 4 times and moved things around, and things have to get done, right? But for me, it's having a list. The best way I can organize my day is just having a list and then checking it off. And because then it's almost like, it feels weird to say it. It kind of feels childish, but it's like a game to me, because I want to check it off. That gives me a good feeling to be able to yes, got that done today. Yes, got that done today. Yes, got that done today. And when I don't get something done, it's it's almost annoying to me that I have to move it to tomorrow. So I'm like, all right, fine, whatever, move it. It has to happen. And that actually does a surprisingly good job about keeping me organized, because I think I'm very self-motivated as a person. I don't have any issue working from home. I live in a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment. It's very easy for me to walk out of my little sunroom that I use as an office and go watch TV. But when I'm in the office, my little office area, I'm in the office. So I may be home and 2 feet away from the kitchen, but at the same time, this is my office space. And so that has also helped me when I'm in this room, I'm working. And when I'm out of this room, I'm not. I don't do any work outside of the office, because I know if I do, 1, when I'm trying to relax, all I'll be thinking about is work. And 2, when I'm trying to work, all I'll be thinking about is relaxing. So I've discovered that that's what works for me. And then, of course, when I'm, out and about and I'm all over the place, all over town all the time. So that helps, too, to kind of keep me active, because I can't be watching Netflix when I'm, in my car driving around to different client meetings or interviews or, recordings. Or if I'm obviously I'm in the office probably 3 to 4 days a week anyway. So that kind of helps give me a balance. But yeah, I think it really boils down to the power list of really just like sitting down and intentionally spending 5 to 10 minutes every day thinking about what you want to achieve the next day. And then another 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the day reflecting on that and like, okay, this worked great. This worked great. This worked great. This didn't work. Why? Oh, well, my car broke down. All right. That isn't ideal. Okay, well now, one, your car's broke down. So how's that going to affect the rest of your week? Right? Because you're going to have to get it fixed. If you're driving around a lot, no, you're not, because your car's broken down. And it's just a really good exercise of just being intentional about your time. And I find that I have a lot more time in the day because I'm intentional with it. And it's not that I'm doing vastly more, vastly less. It's just scheduling out what I'm going to be doing when and being flexible when it needs to change, but also like having that as a sort of guideline, an outline, if you will, really helps keep me organized in that.
Yeah, I was going to say sometimes that's the hardest thing is the change part, because you may be in I don't know about you, but me in real estate, I may be in the middle of doing some paperwork that I need to get done or something like this, and somebody calls and wants to go look at a house. Well, I can't just say, nope, can't do that right now. I'm doing paperwork. So you have to, like you said, you have to adjust constantly. And you got the plan that you want to do. And I use a paper system. So I have a stack, and as I get them done, I move them from the not done pile to the done pile. And that gives me a visual to be able to see whether I'm making progress or not, And like I said, some days I may have this big pile here and I may not get through any of it because I get 14 phone calls wanting to go see this house, that house, or this property, or do different things. So my whole day but I just have to adjust, and they just move to the next day, and you go from there, And the hardest thing, especially being in real estate, like you said, when you're out of the office, being out of the office, that's so hard in real estate, because this little thing right here, it likes to ring, and that's my livelihood. When it does ring, if it don't ring, that's not good for me. I need it to ring, but sometimes it likes to ring in the most inopportune moments. Whether you're at a basketball game with your kids, or you're eating supper with your wife, or you're on a date, or whatever it is, But what I've found is people understand, and so if you'll just text them back real quick, say, hey, I'll call you back, or I'm at a meeting, or I've got something going on, they understand, they're busy people too. So I guess what I'm trying to say is sometimes it's hard to remember to be where you're at. So if you are out to eat with your wife, be out to eat with your wife, leave this thing to the side. It's hard to do. My wife's probably going to have fun with this whenever she listens to this podcast. So, but that, I think that's a big thing, is being able to have time to be a professional, and also have time to be of your personal life. Because if you don't, you're going to drive yourself crazy. That's where burnout comes in. Yeah. If you don't have some balance, it's a balance of doing both. So that's just my thought.
Yeah, and I'd agree. I think it sneaks up on you. I think burnout is very sneaky, especially when you're doing what you love. At least, that's what I found for me, is like, I love every bit of what I do. I work long hours, I work long days, and I'm also in the phase of my career where I'm just trying to grow and build, so that when I'm, 35, 40 years old, I don't have to do that anymore. I can work if I want to, but if I want to go to Maui every other week, I can, right? So there is that level of like, I probably work 6 days a week, but for me, it's very important to have that Sabbath. It's very important to have that seventh day where I rest. I'm not doing any work. I have an automated text message that says, hey, thanks for reaching out. I'll get back to you tomorrow.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
And people understand.
I'm just kidding.
I always answer the phone for you. Just don't call me on a Sunday.
I know you do.
But yeah, I mean, it is that reality of like, there is certain phone calls that you have to pick up. And there's certain ones that you can postpone for a minute. But it goes back to that communication, like you mentioned, of like, just send a message. Hey, I'm out to dinner with my wife. Give me an hour and I'll call you back this evening. Oh, well, this evening doesn't work for me. Okay, cool. I'll call you tomorrow. Like, it's okay to have boundaries with yourself, because as important as your clients are, your family is important too. Yourself is important, right? There's a reason when you're in an airplane, they tell you to put your oxygen mask on first.
That is a big one, I think. And I think, this has nothing to do with real estate, nothing to do with producing shows or anything like that. This is just a personal opinion of mine. Too many people, it's all about their job and all about their family. Well, there's a piece in here in the middle that ties those two together.
Yes.
And it's yourself. And we don't spend enough time or money on making us better, which would make us a better husband, better father, better whatever in our personal life, and also make us a better professional if we would just take care of ourselves. And I've got to where, like, probably 15, 20 years ago, I'd probably read 2 books in my life. The only ones I read was the ones, and I didn't really read them. I read the Cliff's Notes in school to write a paper or something like that, because I felt like it was a waste of time. But I've really started reading more, and in self-development and stuff like that, it's been huge. Been huge for me as far as developing myself. And when you develop yourself, it makes it better for both of the other entities in your life because of the one in the middle. And I don't really know how to explain that other than, you just gotta maintain your own physical and mental health before you can worry about how good of a professional you are. You can't have your whole being and everything about you be tied up into your job. And on the flip side, you can't have your whole everything about you being tied up in your family. There has to be a balance. And to be able to be balanced, you have to have that security in yourself of being the best that you can be and doing things to make that happen, as far as whether that's reading, listening to podcasts. I read a lot, but I also listen to books, because it's just, like you said, going down the road, if I'm not talking to somebody, I'm listening to a podcast or listening to a book.
Yes.
I hope I'm not offending any radio sponsors or anything like that. But it's just listening to. I like music. I like listening to music and stuff like that, but it's not useful to me.
Yeah.
And that's just my personal opinion. I know there's a lot of people that love music. My kids, my wife, absolutely love music. It's just not me.
Yeah. And that's fine. And I think you said something really great. And it really is. You have to. If you are not functioning out of a place of health, how can you help anybody in reality? Because they're not going to get 100% of you, right? So like I was saying earlier, in an airplane, the flight attendant tells you, put your oxygen mask on first before you can help anybody else, right?
Because if you pass out, you ain't going to be able to put somebody else's mask
Everyone else
on.
is screwed, right? Like if you're, say that, I don't know what the average is, but I'm going to say the average person can hold their breath for 1 minute, right? So, okay, how many people can you help in 1 minute in a crowded airplane with everybody panicking? Probably not much. But if you have your oxygen mask on and you can breathe while things are happening, you can help that many more people, right? But you have to be healthy first. Everyone, like in the church space, it's always about make sure your cup is full so that you can overflow into other people's cups. It's not, hey, give everything of yourself so that you're just an empty cup burnout. Like that's exactly how burnout happens, and it's being intentional with time. And, there's the whole argument of there's not enough time in the day to spend time on myself. Yes, there is. You can find time somewhere in your day. And if you can't, you're doing too much. And I hesitate to say you're doing too much because I love the grind. I'm always busy. I always like to have my hands in something. But at the same time, I recognize that importance. And for me, it's that one day a week where if it's an emergency, please reach out to me. But other than that, this is going to be time with my friends, my family, and myself because I have to recuperate for the week. I have to take that time and rest. And every morning I start my day with a workout. That's an hour to an hour and a half where I have time to just focus on me. For me, I can clear my brain doing it. And even if it's like walking on a treadmill or just going on a walk or, sometimes I'll hop on the treadmill and listen to a podcast or an audio book or whatever. It may not be the best workout in the world, but it's, if nothing else, if I gain nothing else from that but an hour to an hour and a half of just time to myself, that's time well spent. Because I can always work. Anybody can always work. But you have to spend that time on yourself. And so that kind of leads into this next question about what education or training you should have to qualify, not necessarily to qualify, but to be a real estate agent. What would you say is a good thing for people to educate themselves on and to train themselves on before they step into that space?
To be honest, there's really not anything that you can really educate yourself on. I mean, other than you obviously got to educate yourself before you go take the test and all of that stuff and learn about real estate itself. But as far as like a general education of something, I know people that have degrees, have doctrines that have real estate license, and I know people that, never hadn't seen the steps of a university ever, and do great in real estate. So I don't think there's necessarily I think the biggest deal is just being able to communicate and relate to people. That's what you got to be able to do. You have to be able to relate to people and for them to trust you because, like we said, it's one of the biggest days of their life. That's the biggest investment most people are going to make is buying a home. That'll be the biggest investment they make their entire life. And they need somebody that they can trust and that they can count on and they can ask questions and that is knowledgeable about their home and about the process of because the process is what's overwhelming to people. It's not you just go, hey, look at that house, I want it, let's put a contract on it, and there we go. There's a lot more to it than that because there might be 10 other people that's putting a contract on it too, especially in the market that we've been in recently. Just because you put a contract, that didn't mean squat. You're one of 10. What can you do? That's where being able to understand the market and kind of, reading what's going on in the market, understanding what other people are doing. I think the biggest skill or biggest educational thing you can do is go to to your local meetings and stuff like that at your local associations and talk to other realtors. What are they doing? What are they doing to make themselves stand out? That's what we try to do every time we make a contract is, okay, we know we're going into this and we're going to be one of 10. What can we do? What can we make our contract more appealing than the other 9? Because a lot of times it's not money, because the money may be the same. So what little things can we do? Not doing an inspection or doing a different kind of inspection or doing seller paid closing cost or buyer paid closing, or there's so many different things that you can do to work a deal to make yourself more appealing and learning those things. And the way I learned them is talking to other realtors. Hey, and then the biggest thing I always like to do is if we don't win one, I'll call that real estate agent and say, hey, so why'd you pick the other one instead of us? I'm not upset that you. I mean, I am, but I'm not upset that you picked the other one. But why? Why did you pick the other one? What made them more appealing than us? And I do that to learn, because when they tell me, oh, well, they were doing this or they were doing that or different things that they were doing, I'm like, oh, okay. So then the next time, hey, we may be able to use one of those and make us the number one spot instead of somebody else.
Yeah. And honestly, that's great. And I think you're exactly right, which kind of goes into my last question, actually.
How many questions you got?
I only have 5 questions.
Goodness.
This will be the last one. How do you build rapport with a new client? Because I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges most new agents have. Now, I'm not in the real estate agent, so I'll clarify with that. But maybe even just freelancers. I know that was my biggest thing, is building a rapport with new clients. And I already had the in. Every new client that I had was a warm lead, quote unquote, because they were referred by somebody else that I had worked with and had a great relationship with. But every person's different. So how, as a real estate agent, when you're having cold leads and maybe some warm, but for the majority, it's probably people that you don't know. Like, that's a definite portion of your business. And starting out as a real estate agent, when you know nobody except for maybe your close friends and family who may be selling a house, you maybe get lucky. How do you build that rapport with new clients to make sure that they trust you and believe in you to do a good job?
It's simple. One word. Listen. Too many people, too many real estate agents, too many people in other areas and stuff, they don't listen to people. Somebody will be telling them something, and they're too busy thinking about what they need to do for them and what they need and what they need. They're not listening to what they actually want. And so, to me, it's simple. It's listen. Shut your mouth and listen. Listen to what they got to say, because, yeah, you might be the professional, but they're the one making the purchase. So if they're wanting to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that's $400,000, and you keep showing them stuff that's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, oh yeah, it's cheaper, but you didn't listen. That's not what they want. 2 baths, or they want 10 acres, or they want, and sometimes it isn't even about the different aspects of a piece of property. It's just they appreciate that you're taking the time to listen and want to know their thoughts and what they're wanting, and that allows them to have confidence in you that you know what they want. So that I can, a lot of times, most of my clients, I can glance through a list of properties and I can mark off 90% of them and be like, nope, they're not going to like that one. They won't like that one. They're not going to like this one. But what I'll do is I'll go ahead and show them, or, send them some of those, knowing beforehand they're not going to like them, and they'll reiterate what I said. But the reason I do that, I do send them some of them, is because I don't want to take that choice away from them. Even though I know up front they're not going to like that. Yeah. Because I went and showed them this house, and they're like, they didn't like the carpet in this room, or they want tile, or they didn't like this about this house. So you kind of put all of that together, and you're able to look at properties and kind of, dissect some of that stuff for them, so that they don't have to dig through all that, because you've already developed a relationship with them. And so that's what you got to do to have that rapport, is develop that relationship and to listen to what they want and what they're looking for, and their time frame, and how they're wanting to handle stuff, and just listen. That, again, it's one word: listen.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note too, that doesn't mean that they're going to get everything they want, if I'm understanding right.
No.
But they need to know that you've heard them, you've seen them, you understand what they're looking for, because then you can always go back and be like, hey, I know this doesn't fit your stereotypical house that you think you want, but it has XYZ amenities. Yeah, it doesn't have the tile in the bathroom. Well, hopefully it has tile in the bathroom, but you know what I mean. It may not have this one item that you don't like, but it has everything else you like. It's in a great area, and as a bonus, it has a pool. I know you didn't mention a pool, but you have kiddos. They'd love that pool, etc. But you wouldn't be able to necessarily think that if you. So I guess what I'm saying is you also can't be strict with only giving them exactly what they want.
Right.
But knowing what they want and having those conversations and building that relationship with them, you would know, okay, they may like this. This may be an option for them that they haven't even thought of yet. And you can bring that to them. And that's what happened with my own parents is the real estate agent they used was a good friend of theirs. And because of that, he was able to find the perfect property that they loved. They're still in it now. I think they're going to be in it until they die, is because he knew them. He knew what they wanted, but he also knew what he thought they might like in addition to that, and was able to find them the perfect property that he wouldn't have done if he was just, Joe Schmo down the street agent.
Yeah, sometimes listening also isn't always what comes out of their mouth. It's whenever you maybe go see a property and you see their eyes on a certain amenity or something that a piece of property has. Now, they might not like that particular property, but that one thing that was, so you start making notes on little things like that. Like, hey, they hadn't said anything about it, but hey, they like that,
Active listening,
right,
and paying attention.
Yes, and paying attention. And number 2, always the wife. Make the wife happy, the guy will follow.
Happy wife, happy life.
That's right. So whatever you want to find what she's looking for, and 90% of the time it's going to be bathroom and kitchen. So, but that goes for my wife, as much as anybody else. So if she wants something and I want something, at the end of the day, she's going to get what she wants, and I'll figure mine out later. Yep.
So, or you get the best of both worlds and just get it all.
Oh, yeah. That's hard to do sometimes. But, so you got any more questions, or was that number 5?
That was number 5. That's all I got for you today. I'll stop asking you all the real estate questions.
Well, it's been fun. We've had a good time. Anything else you want to tell us about producing shows and stuff like that?
No, I think this was fun. This is the first podcast I've actually been on. I've sat in on probably like 50 plus at this point, but
oh yeah, you were my security blanket over here on a couple.
Oh
of
yeah,
them, so
oh yeah. So it's fun to actually be one. Thank you for having me today. It was a good time, and I'm gonna do a shameless plug. If anybody needs a podcast, hit me up. I'll have my social media and all that stuff in the description. But other than that, this has been great. It's been great to see. I think my favorite part about this job is being able to see people grow in their talents. And you can attest to this too. Your first episode of the Real Deal podcast and you now is vastly different. And I think being able to see that growth and being able to have whatever small part in that I may have had has just been great. And I'm excited to see how big this thing gets, man.
Oh, you've been fantastic. You've helped me so much, and one of the things that I'm going to talk about right now is please go down and like and subscribe, and so that'll help us out for our podcast. And Connor has been fantastic for me. He keeps me on point. He will annoy me to death to make sure that I get my stuff done that I need to do. But I need that. I need that because doing the podcast isn't my everyday day-to-day thing. So he has to keep me on track and make sure that I'm taking care of everything that I got to do. And so he's my dude whenever it comes to that. So I really appreciate you, Connor. I thank you. Thank you for everything you do for the podcast, and thank you for being on today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And saying that's going to do it for today. Thank you for tuning in, folks, and make sure you go down and like and subscribe. That'll help us out tremendously, and join us again next week.